like to welcome you to this SCORE Business Showcase. Once again, we have another exciting company with us, Dougherty Insurance Company. We're going to be covering business topics and some of the exciting things that happen in the business world. Welcome, Kyle.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, glad to have you with us.
Glad to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
Now, how long have you been in business, by the way?
Dougherty Insurance was started back in the 1960s by my father, and I purchased it from him in 1999.
Oh, fantastic.
So yeah, we've been around quite a while. I've been running it for a little over 15 years and still going.
So it's a nice family business.
Yeah, second generation now.
Excellent. All right, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That's good.
Thank you.
Now, what is the toughest thing about owning and managing a business?
Probably the toughest thing has got to be finding a balance in when you're running and managing a business. You end up wearing a lot of different hats in your responsibilities, whether it's personnel management, whether it's marketing, whether it's product development and technical expertise, networking your computers, all this stuff. And then you've got to balance it out with your personal life. And so you get all these things that are coming at you from a bunch of different directions, and it starts to get a little bit stressful. You're like, which way do I turn? Do I take care of whatever the priority is right now, or do I need to set some time aside and start, doing some long-term planning and promoting for the future? So time management, personal management, stress management.
Are you taking vitamins?
Yeah, and I'm going to the gym too.
All right, excellent. Because what it made me think about when you were saying all those things is like we're spinning plates.
Yeah.
Right? And you got to keep on those plates spinning.
Yeah, and if one of them falls, well, the rest of them might start going too. It kind of becomes
Exactly.
a domino effect. So you don't want to. You want to take care not to overextend yourself.
Yes.
But
exactly.
but at the same time, you want to try and manage everything as coolly and calmly, as responsibly as you can, so that you can keep your stress levels under management, because everybody knows over time stress is going to get to you.
Yeah.
And there's no getting around that unless you are aware of it when it's starting to pile up.
I took my B complex this morning.
All right. All right.
Now, what should a new manager look for?
A new manager's got to look for an opportunity that's right for them. They've also got to look for something that that they're prepared for, that they feel ready to take on. You're never going to be 100% ready. Sometimes you think you are. Sometimes you think you've been in a certain business or a certain position long enough, or if you've watched somebody else do it for long enough. But when you step into that role, you realize what you don't know. And you realize that when you punch out at the end of the day, you take some of those things home with you. You don't leave them behind at the office and then pick them up when you get there the next day. It's not that cut and dried. So when you're stepping into that new manager system, also the people that you work with, you don't necessarily work with them anymore. Now they work for you. And that it's a subtle difference, but it's a perceptional one, and people are going to relate to you a little bit differently. Hopefully you've already earned their respect if you've worked with them in the past, so that they'll be fully supportive. You're going to get some people who might be a little bit resentful that now you're their boss. And so you've got to have that personal social skill set, and you've got to realize that things do change when you make that step to becoming a new manager.
Now, what is the best thing about owning and managing your own business?
Owning and managing, the best thing in my opinion is the flexibility that you get. For example, today, usually this is during business hours that we're having this conversation, and I'm able to step away from my business because I am the owner and I am the manager, and come down here and do something else that's important that's not directly tied to the business. A lot of us have kids in school. Can all of us get away to go pick up our daughter after school, or take that call when the nurse's station calls in and your daughter's sick and you got to go pick her up on a moment's notice? So being an owner and a manager gives you that kind of flexibility, which is in my opinion, the best thing about it.
It brings a lot of value to the table.
It really does. It really does. A lot of people are looking for different things in their job. They're looking for stability. They're looking for income. They're looking for benefits, or maybe they're looking for flexibility. For me, that one's just huge. Believe me, I make up for it on the tail end. Sometimes I got to work late to make up for the time that I'm taking away out of the office. But Yeah, the flexibility is pretty cool.
And that was my next question, because you had mentioned quite a few things. We're spinning plates. How much does an owner actually work during the course of the week?
It depends on the owner, and a lot of people think that, oh, well, you're the owner, you can take off whenever you want, and and usually it's just the opposite. Like I said before, when you leave the office or your workplace at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it doesn't flip a switch and everything goes off.
Right.
You're thinking about that business throughout the evening. You're going online and maybe checking that email that you were looking for during the day that didn't come, or just cleaning out some computer files. Or maybe you're going to a community event that helps you promote your business. Maybe you're going to a Chamber of Commerce type of thing that I've seen you at a few of.
Yes, indeed.
And while that might just be a kind of a networking social event, it's also a business-related event one too. So it's really hard to say where the hours end here and where the differentiation is.
Right.
You might be working at the office, I don't know, 25 hours a week, but you might be working outside the office another 25 hours a week in the same week. So it's probably more than people think. It would be the short answer to that.
Well, it sounds like you have a lot of enthusiasm. It sounds like you have passion for your business. Is that important?
You have to. You have to, because if you don't, you're going to mail it in on some days and you're going to burn out after a while. And people are going to sense that from you. If you don't have passion, do you think your employees that you work with every day aren't going to pick up on that? They will.
Exactly.
They will. Do you think your customers will pick up on that? If they're repeat customers and they deal with you again and again, they're gonna sense that, you know what, he's just not all in today.
Exactly.
And if you're not passionate about it, you're not going to be all in every day. And even if you are passionate about it, there are some days where you just, you know what, I think I might check out a little early today. But yeah, you got to be passionate about it. And if you like it, you will be passionate about it.
Now, how do you balance running your business and other responsibilities?
I'm still trying to figure that one out. Recently I've taken out a few things that I probably shouldn't have, because I'm trying to do everything. I want to do more. I want to do as much as I can. I want to do as much as my potential says I can.
Yes.
And I've probably gone overboard with that and taken on a few too many things. And I'm looking forward to about a couple weeks from now when a few of them back off the plate, and I can say, hey, look, I did that. I helped you out, but I've overextended myself, and some other things are starting to suffer. Like this morning, I got into a little bit of argument with my daughter on the way to school, and it made me think about that on the way to work after I dropped her off. And I was like, you know what, I need to spend a little more time around the house. I haven't been doing that very much lately, and so you know what, something's got to give.
Now, do you like to read? As a business owner, do you like to read?
Do I like to read? I love to read, yeah.
Fantastic. Because one of the things that we cover in our show, and we like to point out to our people out there in SCORE world, is various books. Do you have a particular book that you like or that you would recommend for us?
Yeah. Do you want one that's business related, or do you want one that I'm reading for pleasure, or
whatever helps you in your business?
Whatever helps me in my business. I'd like to read autobiographies. Right now, I'm reading Truman by, I'm sorry, I forget the author's name, but aside from being informative, interesting read, it also talks about management styles. It talks about leadership skills. With the Truman autobiography, which I'm only about halfway through, I'm just to where he just assumed the presidency, but it talks a lot about your interaction with other people in his case on a political level, the loyalty that he fosters with other people, and the trust that he fosters with other people. People honestly see him as a sincerely down-to-earth, honest, real, accessible person. Even when he ascends to the presidency, he's not seen by his former peers as Mr. President. He is seen as Harry. At least at first. It takes them a little while to get used to him not being one of them anymore and being a president. And it says a lot to the relationships that he created while he was in Congress and such.
That says a lot for us that we're in business too.
Yeah.
relationships that we foster.
Absolutely.
Now, one of the things you mentioned when you were talking about before, as far as backing off of some of the things or responsibilities, makes me think of Jim Rohn, who's or used to be, a personal development speaker. But one of the things he always would say is, don't let your mouth overwork your back. Right?
You got it. You got it. Learn how to say no once in a while.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? It's very important. Now, as far as your business is concerned, what do you look for in an employee?
That's a great question. When I'm looking for an employee, I want somebody who's got some ambition, who's got some drive, who's got some self-motivation. I can motivate people, but when they come in and they're ready to go, and they want to accomplish something, even if they're not sure what it is they want to accomplish, but they're eager. They're looking for the opportunity, and they're looking for maximizing that opportunity. The other thing I'm looking for is trust. We've got to be able to trust each other. If we don't have trust, everything else starts to crack and fall apart. And if I can't trust somebody who's working for me, they're not going to be working for me for very long. And if they don't trust me as their boss, they're always going to have that chip on their shoulder. They're always going to be skeptical of what I'm all about because they don't believe me. So they're going to tend to think that I'm taking advantage of them. If they trust me and they trust that, hey, look, we're both trying to improve each other. It's not just about you're working for me and so you're doing for me. I want this to work for you too.
Teamwork.
Yeah, teamwork. So communication skills. That might sound kind of bland, but I'll tell you what, I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how good you are at the business. If you can't communicate that to the people you work with, to your customers, if you can't communicate, you're stuck with your own skill set. You can't share it with others. You can't help others develop. You can't understand what others are trying to tell you.
Exactly.
And I'm in sales. I'm in insurance sales. If you can't communicate what you're trying to sell to the customer,
You're never going to get it.
you're never going to go anywhere. So yeah, communication, especially in this day with not just the verbally spoken word, but all the different types of communications, emails, texts, video chats. You've got to be able to communicate. Just the way that you're dressed today says something to me. It says something that you're taking today serious.
Yes, that's right. Very good. And so body language is another big thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You said
Excellent.
you said enthusiasm before. Enthusiasm is part of your communication.
You better believe it.
Yeah. It's not just a state of mind.
Excellent, excellent. You know, there was another question I was thinking about because we interview people also, and one of the questions that a person generally asked when in the interview was, "What out of all the things you've done in your life, what is the biggest thing that put a sparkle in your eye?" All right. And so when you ask that question, what you're looking for is their best accomplishment that they've had in their life. And so when they give that, all right, then you know where they've been. They might have a few that they have to think about. All right, that type of thing. So now they've accomplished something. All right.
Well, I could give you the standard answers like, getting married and purchasing the business when I first became the owner of the business. Yeah, those were, but you know what? One is one that most people might not think about. My first successful hire. The first time I hired somebody and it worked out. It worked out for everybody. It worked out for the customers. It worked out for me. It worked out for the person who was now newly employed by me. That felt really good because everybody benefited from it.
Yes, yes.
I'm in insurance, as I mentioned before. Another thing that's satisfying time and time again is when one of my customers has a claim and it gets settled successfully, thoroughly, and fairly, and everybody's happy at the end of the day. And this guy's got his car fixed. This person's got their house repaired. This guy who's been out on workers' compensation gets to go back to work. That's
a story.
That's a story.
Yeah.
I don't blame people for being very proud of what they do, whether they're first responders or something heroic like that, or they're teachers, or they're doctors, or they're something that people look up to just by what they do. I'm pretty proud of being in insurance because what we do is pretty important too.
Yes, it is.
And at the end of the day, when we've got a successful transaction and somebody who has paid us and never needed to use the product, and always felt like, oh, I'm wasting my money because I pay for this and I never freaking use it. And now it's time to use it, and now they're wondering, did I make the right purchase? Is it going to deliver now that I need it to deliver?
Right.
And we go through that, and we do that, and we deliver.
Big difference,
Yeah,
yes.
so that's when the rubber hits the road, and that's when it really feels good after we've had a successful solution. And you know what else makes us feel good at the end of the day? You know what else is a big success? When we're successful enough in our business where we're able to help the community, where we're able to extend ourselves. And the Vicky Soto 5K charity event is coming up pretty soon. We're proud to be a part of that. There's a number of other things that we participate with, and to be able to be successful enough to say, hey, look, yeah, we'll help you out with that.
So giving back to the community also.
Absolutely, because you know what? If you're on the margins, if you're just barely getting by as a business, it's really tough to take that next step and be generous. But when you're a little past that and you're starting to be successful and you can do that, that's another real feel-good moment.
Excellent, excellent. Now, would you go back to working for someone else?
It would have to be the right situation, because as you asked me before, the things that I really appreciate, the flexibility, the freedom, I don't have to go and ask somebody, for the most part, maybe my wife, but I don't have to go and ask somebody, hey, this is what business decision I'm going to make. Is that okay? So it would be an awkward transition to go back and work for somebody else. But I think, of course, if it was the right situation, but it would have to be the right situation.
And those change.
And those change too.
Those change.
And you know what? When you make a move like that, it's a big leap.
Yes.
It's a big leap. So I'd probably say no.
Right. Yeah, because there's something to that flexibility you have as being an owner of your business.
Yeah. I'd say no. I'd say not never.
And freedom.
Yeah, and the freedom that comes with it.
Yes, indeed. Now, how has technology changed your business, if at all?
Well, technology is changing everybody's business, whether you're ready for it or not, whether you like it or not, whether it's working for you or working against you. It's changed our business because we all thought technology was going to make our lives easier, and in many ways it has. But one of the dynamics is that when technology wasn't as advanced as it is now, we thought that advancing technology would make it easier for us to gather information and process information and get pricing out to people and get pricing done and get the office filing done. It hasn't exactly worked out that way, because what it's also required us to do is collect more information and analyze more information and disseminate more information. So while we can handle more, we're being asked to do more. So has technology really made it that much easier? Not as much as you'd think, because it's requiring us to do more. It also puts us in a hamster wheel against each other, because whoever can utilize technology more efficiently and quicker might get ahead. But then again, if you get too close to that cutting edge of technology, well, you start to hit some stumbling points. If you're too close to that cutting edge, well, now you've got to hit that learning curve, and you've got to master that learning curve. So is technology really working for you then? Yeah, of course technology is changing everything, but it's challenging. It's made our lives easier in a lot of ways. It's made our lives a little tougher in a lot of ways. It's made our lives a lot more fun in a lot of ways too.
Okay. Now, that's where you are right now, but how about the future? Where do you think the future as far as technology is going to go?
Oh, wow. It's going to make things more fluid. For example, when I write an insurance policy for a customer, I collect a set of information. And I take that set of information, and the more complex the customer, the more complex that set of information, and the more individualized that set of information is. So when I go to an insurance company, A, B, and C, and I say, I want each one of you guys to give me a proposal for this customer, the more complex it is, I've got to give a different set of information to A, different set to B, different set to see. Technology in the future is going to make it easier and more fluid for me to go to A, B, C, and maybe even D and E, as technology makes that processing of information easier and faster. And that's going to help the customer ultimately because, well, it's going to give me more work to do as I go to company D and E, but it's going to benefit the customer because they've got more options now. I'm doing a more thorough job in my shopping for them. And by compiling more information, I can make sure I'm doing the job correctly because I've got a more complete set of information. And whoever can implement those technology solutions more efficiently wins.
Yes. Now, going back to filing, right? Because there's a difference between paper and also electronic filing. How has that helped you?
Filing has helped immensely with storage and retrieval. If I get a letter from one of my customers, well, you know, we used to have to scan it and have a backup system and then attach it to the file, and they've gone through a number of different evolutions of filing. Now it's really easy. Now I take it, I label it, it goes in the file, and it also goes into an archive in case it gets lost in the file, in case it was mislabeled. In technology, well, now I can search a document, not necessarily by the title, but what's in the document. And so if it's mislabeled, well, that
You
might...
have flexibility.
Exactly.
Because I know when you take out paper out of the file cabinet and then you forget to put it back, where is that piece of paper?
And didn't we have those problems back when there were multiple people accessing the same files?
Yes.
With paper files? The paper's not there because it's on somebody else's desk, and that stack that used to be this high, but now it's in the computer system, and anybody, whoever accesses it, it's still there for anybody to find, even if somebody's using it at the time.
So technology really has helped today, hasn't it?
It's changed the game.
Yes, indeed. Now, what is your, when it comes to business, what is your biggest concern that you have?
I think if you're a manager or an owner of a business, your biggest concern is going to be anything that resembles failure. And that's not the greatest motivator sometimes, but of course you're afraid of failing with your business. You're afraid of having to lay somebody off. You're afraid of having to downsize or having to cut some of your expenses. One of the first things to go when a business is financially stressed is advertising, for example. Okay, you're having a tough time. You're going through a rough year. You got to cut back on something. Do you cut back on advertising, or can you find something else to cut back? It's not a wholesale failure, but it's a small failure, and it causes stress. And you don't want those failures. So you want to continue to, even if incrementally, you want to continue to grow. You don't want to stagnate, and you certainly don't want to fall off, because those things compound other problems.
The domino effect.
Yeah. So you want to stay steady. You want to stay consistent. You want to keep moving forward. If you're standing still, you're not growing.
Right.
If you're not growing, you're dying.
Right.
So, that's the biggest fear, is that not moving forward.
Now, what motivates you as a manager and also a business owner?
I take a lot of pleasure out of what I do. I love the people I work with. I got a great set of people that work at my office with me. They make my job enjoyable. I got mostly pretty good customers. I got a couple.
I'm one of them.
No, that's not true. We love you, but any business has a few customers that are difficult to deal with, or have their expectations set a little too high. But I'm not so much worried about making a ton of money. That would be nice, but I like the people. I like what I do. I like going to work every day. I like the successes that we talked about earlier, and that's what motivates me. One of the other things that motivates me is, I mentioned taking my daughter to high school earlier, and I took her to high school today, took her to school. Well, one of the things that motivates me is I want her to be successful, and I want to be able to pay for her college when we get to that point. I want to be able to pay for her wedding if we ever get to that. So financially, that's a big motivator too. But there's so much more to it than that, than just the financial aspect of it. There's a lot of donating to local causes. That's really important to me. I do a lot of charity work. I do a lot of donation work, which is the culprit of most of what stretches me a little too thin. But I love doing it. And my business, the more successful it is, the more it allows me to do these things.
In fact, I saw you at an event. It was at one of the high schools in Stratford. One time we were volunteering.
Right,
time.
right. I think it was one of the junior achievement.
Yes,
type
exactly,
of things.
exactly.
Yeah.
That was a fun event. That was very, very good.
Yeah.
So it does give you that opportunity.
Yeah.
Now, I do have a question because we're both in the same field, and that is my question. I was going to ask you about life, the difference between life and property and casualty. All right, what do you see? Is there a difference as far as the people are concerned when you're dealing with those customers?
Yeah, yeah. The way, without getting too much into it, the way that the life industry is structured is more towards sales. It really is sales oriented. And the property and casualty part is, with property casualty being auto and homeowners, small businesses, business autos, workers' compensation coverages, buildings, property coverage, liability. Because of the way that the industries are structured, we're more geared towards, on the property and casualty side, we're more geared towards service, which sometimes for me as an owner is a little frustrating because, like I mentioned, growth is important. You've got to stay continually progressing. But the people that I work with are generally more geared towards service-oriented work, keeping the customers happy, keeping the customer coming back year after year after year. Right. In life insurance, a lot of the people are geared towards making the initial sale, and then the monitoring of that business tends to be a little less hands-on than in our case.
Yes, and also what I'm referring to also is there's a difference in the customer when it comes to life insurance and also property and casualty. People in property casualty, they usually talk about their previous events that happened, with their accidents and things of that nature.
Yeah.
They're willing to talk and engage you.
Yeah, in life insurance, you're only going to have one claim.
Right. And you don't want